They thought humanity was afraid. Too soft. Too diplomatic. They laughed as they called us cowards, unwilling to fight. But when the human president stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, she didn't beg. She warned them. And what came next silenced the stars. The chamber fell into a hushed tension as the delegate from the Valari Dominion uncoiled his armored limbs and stepped into the light of the Grand Council dais. Behind him, the banners of 100 species rippled in the artificial wind, but his voice sliced through them all. Let the record reflect that Earth has failed to uphold its obligations. Refusing joint military exercises. Withdrawing from conflict zones. Obstructing Council-approved enforcement operations. These are not the actions of an ally. These are the habits of cowards. Scattered murmurs followed. No one expected it to be said aloud, but many believed it. The humans were traitors, talkers, diplomats. Proud, yes, but quiet. Always quiet when war loomed. President Madeleine Roque hadn't spoken yet. She stood at the rear of the chamber, her boots silent on the obsidian floor, her hands still behind her back. No entourage. No ceremonial robes. Just the midnight black uniform of Earth's Strategic Command, worn with defiance. Archdominator VYXL pressed on, his mandibles flaring in satisfaction. The Valari Dominion proposes Earth's removal from military high command. Effective immediately. Let them return to commerce and climate repair. We cannot entrust war to those who fear the sting of it. The motion hit like a slap across the chamber. Council members shifted in their seats, some surprised, some clearly delighted. Several delegates from the Korgmek clans nodded, their crimson carapaces flickering in approval. The motion would pass unless Earth responded. Council Speaker Dravik turned to Roque. President Roque. Earth is named. You may answer. She stepped forward, her pace unhurried. She stopped at the central podium and stared up at the tiers of aliens judging her. The glow of the council floor pulsed beneath her boots. Earth has no interest in leading wars, she said. A pause. Some alien smugness bloomed like rot in the silence. VYXL smiled wide, his voice dripping sarcasm. Spoken like one who admits weakness. She looked up slowly. You mistake reluctance for inability. That's not weakness. That's restraint. VYXL tilted his head, taunting. And what would humans restrain, if not fear? Roque reached into her coat and placed a small black prism on the pedestal. Her voice didn't rise, but something in it changed. A subtle frequency. Cold. Precise. Authorization, Roque Alpha 12. Open Dread Protocol Archive. Level 6 declassification. Visual only. The council chamber dimmed. The prism lit up. Holograms spiraled to life, footage from Earth's past and present. First came the old wars. Cities devoured by mushroom clouds. Trenches lined with ice and blood. Orbital debris fields spinning silently after ship-to-ship annihilations. Then came the whispers from Earth's darker decades, classified projects, rods from God, weather weapon prototypes, antimatter mine dispersals, orbital siege walkers that dwarfed cities. A chorus of gasps rippled through the council as one feed zoomed in on a human battlefield medic carrying 3 wounded soldiers through a napalm field while humming. Behind her, artillery from both sides collapsed the ridge. Roque waited. The feed cut. We don't show you this to threaten you, she said. We show you this because you asked why we don't join your wars. She leaned slightly forward. Because we've seen war. We've mastered it. And when a species learns to kill with clinical perfection, it either becomes a tyrant, or it learns not to enjoy it. You avoid it. VYXL sneered. Because you fear what you'll lose. No, she said. Because we fear what we'll become. Speaker Dravik raised a hand, but Roque spoke over him now. The room had tilted. When your fleets marched on the Iskari moons, did Earth object? Yes. Did we stop you? No. When the Euro massacres began, we sent envoys. Not soldiers. Why? She took a breath. Her tone hardened. Because the last time Earth went to war without restraint, the atmosphere changed. We shifted the planet's axis by 3 degrees. Not by intent, by accident. 1 war. 1. Silence. Roke activated a second feed. 12 long, triangular silhouettes floated in darkness, cloaked, waiting still. The feed zoomed in. Each bore Earth's flag and no designation. These are ghost fleets. You haven't seen them on your scanners because they're under no power. No drive. Just orbiting, camouflaged. Waiting. Each one capable of deleting a planet in under 20 minutes. Valari delegates stood in protest. The council erupted. You threaten us now? The Waxow roared, pounding a clawed limb on the railing. No, Roke said. I'm informing you. Because you seem to believe Earth avoids war out of fear. When the truth is, we haven't responded to your provocations out of mercy. Speaker Dravik slammed his staff to silence the uproar. You will deactivate those fleets immediately, he demanded. They're not activated, Roke said, her voice calm. They're sleeping. Like us. Another pause. Until now. Vyxl pointed. You would spark a war over a word? No, she said. I'm here to ensure you understand what that word means. She stepped back from the podium and turned away, then paused. You wanted us to admit fear. Here it is. She turned back to face them one last time. We are afraid. Afraid that if Earth ever stops restraining itself, the galaxy won't survive what rises in its place. The words hung like steel in the air. No one spoke. And for the first time in recorded council history, the Valari Dominion withdrew their motion. Vyxl's claws drummed furiously against the obsidian desk as the council chambers slowly stabilized from the shock. The Valari delegates hissed in low, ultrasonic frequencies. Private channel rage. Across the hall, many species had fallen uncomfortably quiet. Others exchanged uneasy glances. The humans had just flipped the balance of perception without raising a single weapon. President Roke stood silently by the podium, hands behind her back, eyes forward like she hadn't just flipped the galaxy on its head. Councillor Feros of the Drayan Triad finally broke the silence. You claim this archive was meant only to inform us. Yet these weapons you revealed, these ghost fleets, are illegal under Accord 47C. By possessing them, Earth violates intergalactic law. Roke didn't blink. The fleets predate Accord 47C. We offered them for dismantling when we joined the Council. The request was declined. Speaker Dravik scowled. That is not in the official record. Of course it isn't, Roke replied. Your archivist was Valari. A dozen delegates shifted uncomfortably. Vyxl stood, his voice sharp and venomous. This entire charade is a human power play. You call it restraint, but what you've displayed is posturing. You flex ancient relics like bones from a grave. Outdated ships, obsolete systems. They are not threats. They are fossils. Roke reached into her pocket and placed a second prism on the podium. Would you like to see something current? Before anyone could object, she tapped it. The chamber's lights dimmed again, and this time what filled the space was not archive footage. It was live feed. 12 high-orbit tactical recon satellites broadcasting from different systems. Each displayed a human dreadnought. Sleek. Active. No lights. No signal emissions. No known registry. Codename, Red Sky. Stealth capable. Solar powered. Command override held only by Earth's Strategic Council and myself. These are not fossils. They are fail-safes. Feros leaned forward, her voice trembling. Why are they aimed inward, at your own territories? Roke nodded. Because the only thing more dangerous than war with aliens is war between humans. We know our weakness. We build checks for it. Dravik's tone turned harsh. You expect us to believe this is altruism? I expect you to believe what your own eyes show you, Roke replied. Earth has warred with itself longer than most of your civilizations have existed. We learned something none of you have. When a predator understands it cannot be trusted, it builds its cage from the inside. VYXL spat. So you hide behind fear of yourselves. You don't lead because you're noble. You don't lead because you can't even trust your own kind. Rogue stepped down from the platform, walking slowly forward. Tell me, Archdominator, have the Valari ever experienced civil war? VYXL puffed out his chest. We are one caste. One voice. And that is why you are weak. He snapped toward her. You dare? Every human command structure has redundancies. You know why? Because we learned that loyalty without question breeds monsters. We learned that peace requires dissent. We know war because we suffered every flavor of it. She paced, voice rising not in volume, but wait. You think we're afraid of war? No. We're afraid of who we were before we earned peace. We're afraid of the ease with which we could wipe out entire systems if we stopped holding ourselves back. Counselor Tellin of the Raxery leaned forward, curious. Then why reveal any of this now? Rogue stopped. Because I needed the galaxy to understand one truth. You've mistaken mercy for timidity, strategy for cowardice. That mistake ends today. She turned to Speaker Dravik. Earth will not accept removal from the military council. Not because we seek dominance, but because none of you understand war like we do. VYXL snarled. Then prove it. Enter the Deneb conflict. Deploy your troops. Put human blood where your mouth is. No, Rogue said flatly. VYXL laughed, barbed and theatrical. Then you admit. I said no, she interrupted. Because you don't deserve them. You ask for Earth soldiers like their pawns. Like our dead mean less because they bleed red instead of black or green. She faced the full assembly. We will not spill Terran lives to earn your respect. That is the old way. That is your way. We will lead with strategy. With precision. If necessary, with overwhelming force. But not like this. A slow murmur began to build. VYXL leaned over his mic. Then what is your way, human? Rogue smiled faintly, the first expression she'd shown since entering the room. We don't fight unless there's no other option. And if there is no other option, she let the moment sit. We don't fight fair. A thin silence followed, anticipation so thick it choked. Counselor Tellin broke it with a careful breath. If Earth remains in military command, how do you propose we avoid open war? Rogue turned to face him. You put a human in the chair. And then you pray we don't ever let them stand. The words landed like thunder. Several delegates stood. Some shouted. But no one denied the weight of them. Speaker Dravik looked pale under the chamber lights. There will be a vote, he said. Immediately. As he raised his staff, VYXL hissed one last insult under his breath. You think you're gods of war. You're just animals with sharper claws. Rogue didn't look at him as she passed. We're not gods. We're just a species that learned to fear itself, before anyone else had to. The vote began. And for the first time since Earth joined the Council, every eye turned toward humanity, not with condescension, but with caution. The vote tallied in silence. No cheers. No celebrations. The chamber's grand displays projected numbers in cold white light. Earth retained its seat. By a narrow margin, but enough. President Roque remained still as the final count echoed through the assembly. 192 for Earth. 139 against. 40 abstained. The Valari delegation stood frozen, their collective posture rigid, bristling with unspoken fury. But the motion was dead. Speaker Dravik lowered his staff. Let the record show, Earth retains full military command privileges under the Joint Defense Accords. No applause followed. Just that slow, unmistakable shift in power perception. Eyes no longer mocking. Now measuring. Calculating. Roque turned, ready to exit. Then came the interruption. From the shadows of the upper tiers, an unfamiliar voice spoke. It didn't belong to any formal delegate. You believe fear makes you strong, it said. But all fear does is delay the inevitable. The chamber scanned itself. Lights brightened. Guards reached for weapons. From a narrow side corridor, a lone figure stepped forward, robes of woven starlight, face obscured beneath a curved obsidian mask. Every translator feed failed. No ID match. No formal species designation. But Speaker Dravik didn't stop them. In fact, he looked terrified. Rogue's eyes narrowed. The masked figure spoke again, but this time directly to her. We knew Earth would survive. We didn't expect it would remember. Rogue stepped toward them. Identify yourself. I am NYRH, the figure said. Or what's left of them. My people once ruled 10 sectors. Until we encountered Earth. That's not possible. Dravik snapped. The NYRH Empire collapsed 3,000 years ago. Because Earth ended it. That silenced everything. You think your weapons today are unmatched. NYRH continued, voice calm. But you forget what you buried. What your kind became when provoked. Rogue's tone turned hard. If this is a threat, this is a reminder. You restrained yourselves for a reason. Don't let this council convince you to loosen that leash. Not again. VYXL laughed sharply. Are we seriously entertaining myths now? A ghost rises from the archives to speak in riddles? Earth is no ancient terror. They're a species of scavengers who climbed out of blood and soil barely a few centuries ago. And YRH ignored him. He addressed only Roke. We tried to enslave early humanity. Failed. Tried to exterminate them. Failed. Tried to erase them from time itself. And still they adapted. Not because they were stronger, but because they were willing to become monsters to survive monsters. Roke didn't flinch. What do you want? To warn you. The galaxy has forgotten the true shape of Earth. And something else remembers. Something you buried deeper than your war machines. It stirs now. Pharos of the Draen stood. This is manipulation. Earth revealed weapons and now you fabricate mythology to justify it? Roke's voice cut through. Why now? Why appear today? And YRH turned toward her. Because your fleets moved. The room froze. You think you only revealed power. But in doing so, you activated something. Subspace tremors. Ancient monitoring beacons. Things older than language. It noticed. Roke narrowed her gaze. What noticed? Something Earth tried to forget. Something even you don't remember. A failed invasion. Of Earth. Millions of years ago. Long before writing. Long before nations. She folded her arms. You expect me to believe that Earth was a battleground before it had cities? You don't have to believe. And YRH said. You'll feel it soon enough. VYXL hissed. Enough! This is fearmongering theater. Remove this creature. No guards moved. Dravik finally found his voice again. We have no record of NYRH ancestry or prior Earth contact. That's because it wasn't recorded by pen or code. And YRH said softly. It was written in bone. In nightmares. In firestorms seen by eyes that never knew words. Ask your archaeologists. The impact craters that don't match any known asteroid. The radiation signature's older than your sun. Earth remembers. You just stopped listening. Roke looked at the council. Their faces weren't sure anymore. The mockery was gone. In its place, a primal uncertainty. She stepped forward. If you have knowledge, give it. And YRH held out a small sphere, metal, black, pulsing with faint blue veins. This is a memory node. Extracted from a dead world. It contains the last message of a NYRH fleet. One that disappeared near Sol eons ago. Pharos objected. We cannot verify that. Roke took it without hesitation. It's not for you to verify. And YRH said. It's for Earth to remember. Before another word could be spoken, the NYRH figure flickered. Cloak, mask, everything, gone. No scent, no trace. Just static in the air and the sound of 1,000 species holding their breath. The YXL snarled, pointing a claw at Roke. This is your doing. A psyop. You staged this. Roque ignored him. She turned the sphere in her palm, feeling the pulse beneath its surface. I didn't stage anything. But if what he said is true. She looked up at the chamber. Then this council has bigger problems than Earth's fear of war. She pocketed the sphere. And I suggest we start preparing for a war none of us remember, but one that clearly remembers us. No one argued. Not this time. The briefing room aboard Earth's orbital flagship, Argent Vow, was sealed, soundproofed, and scrubbed of all surveillance. President Roque stood alone at the center of a circular table surrounded by 12 generals, 3 scientists, and the Council's reluctant envoy, Tellin of the Raxery. In the middle of the table, the NYRH memory sphere floated in a magnetic stasis field, pulsing slow blue with each passing second. General Kale, bald and flame-scarred, spoke first. The tech in this thing doesn't match any known database. Not NYRH, not Council, not even Terran origin. It's coded in quantum recursion, folds in on itself. We've never seen anything like it. Roque nodded once. What's it say? Kale motioned to a scientist seated at his right. Dr. Yen strode forward, his voice dry but steady. It's not so much a message as a record. Sensory input. Emotions. What's left of a fleet-wide consciousness as it was consumed. Tellin shifted. Consumed by what? Dr. Yen tapped the console. The lights dimmed. The room filled with low, distorted howling, layered with incomprehensible frequencies that grated bone. They called it the precursor silence. A species? A force? Unclear. All we know is it existed beyond the veil of known physics. When the NYRH made contact, they tried to dominate it. They failed. It retaliated, not with ships or weapons, but by corrupting. Kale's face darkened. Think psionic infection meets quantum entropy. They didn't lose ships. They lost reality. Systems collapsed in real time. The fleet's memory was the only thing that made it out. Tellin bristled. If this thing existed, why hasn't it come back? Roque replied without flinching. Maybe it didn't know where we were. Maybe Earth was hidden by its chaos. But when we activated our ghost fleets, something registered. Subspace trembled. It felt us. General Vasquez leaned forward. So we triggered it? Dr. Yen shrugged. Or we woke it. Roque looked around the table. We need options. Kale folded his arms. There's no precedent for this. Nothing to fight. No enemy to shoot. Just something ancient that kills existence by proximity. We've faced extinction before, Roque said. Nuclear winters. Genetic collapse. Orbital sieges. We adapted. We survived. This isn't survival, Kale snapped. This is conceptual erasure. We need leverage, Vasquez said. Something that hits first. Before it reaches populated systems. Dr. Yen hesitated. There's one project. A theoretical platform. Not approved. Rogue's eyes sharpened. What kind? Pre-AI. It uses human consciousness as both processor and weapon trigger. A war form driven by emotion, bonded with synthetic code. Designed to interface with anomalies and override causality breaches. Kale blinked. You mean Sigma Vault? Roque didn't react. I buried Sigma Vault. You buried it because it killed its own creators during simulation, Kale reminded her. Dr. Yen stepped forward. That was with uncontrolled emotion imprints. We believe with a refined interface, it can be guided. It may be the only thing that can survive contact with a precursor entity. Tellin's voice cracked. You're going to unleash a human weapon designed to rewrite reality? No, Roque said calmly. We're going to activate it, and pray we still have the strength to command it. Kale stared. Even if it works, who do you bond it to? You can't use volunteers. It requires a mind with rage deep enough to feed it. I know someone, Roque said. I trained him myself. Does he know? Vasquez asked. He will. Hours later, Roque entered a solitary holding bay beneath the Argent Vow. Inside sat a man in blackout fatigues, back straight, eyes closed. No rank. No name. Just the designation etched on his wrist, Project Warden. He opened his eyes as she approached. "So," he said dryly, "you're finally calling me up. You were never decommissioned. That's not what the hole in the ground above Sigma Vault said. We need you." He stood. "How bad?" Roque handed him a pad. "Existential." He read for a few seconds, eyes scanning faster than most could comprehend. Then he looked up. "It's real?" She nodded. "It's coming." He tossed the pad aside. "What do I need to become?" She hesitated. "More than human. Less than safe." He stepped forward, gaze unblinking. "Then I'll need a name." "You already have one." "Not my designation. My name. If I'm going to become something ancient things fear, I want to know what I die as." She stared at him, then answered quietly. "Jonas Creed." He repeated it. Once. Like tasting it for the first time. Then he turned toward the chamber doors. "Tell your council to pray this thing bleeds. Because if it doesn't, I will make it wish it could." Roque watched him go, her voice low but certain. "That's why we never feared war. Because we knew, when the real one came, we'd stop asking who was human. And start showing them why we never needed to be." Jonas Creed stood motionless in the vault's core, bare-chested, wires burrowed into his spine and skull. Above him, the Sigma core pulsed, a crystalline mass rotating in impossible directions, refracting light that didn't belong to this universe. Its song wasn't sound, it was pressure in the blood, memories whispered backward. The machine wasn't built for understanding. It was built for one function, to survive what nothing else could. Roque watched from the sealed observation deck, jaw tight, voice steady through the comms. "Initiate final link." Technicians hesitated. No one wanted to touch the final key. Jonas didn't wait. He closed his eyes, whispered one word, "Now," and the core roared to life. Energy slammed down like a god's scream. The chamber lit white. Every backup breaker in the sector tripped. Gravity wavered. The stasis field buckled. And for a fraction of a second, Jonas Creed was everywhere. His scream wasn't pain, it was transformation. Synaptic fusion. Emotional encoding. Neural override. Human anger, distilled to weaponry. The machine's synthetic intelligence recoiled, then submitted. It didn't break Jonas. He rewrote it. Bent it into something new. Something worse. In orbit, sensors flatlined. Long-range scanners melted from overload. Subspace rippled like a disturbed ocean. Then, silence. Inside the vault, Jonas opened his eyes. They glowed white. Not from light, but from absence. Dr. Yen staggered back. "He's stable. But his brainwaves, they're not human anymore." Kale leaned closer. "What are they?" "Angry." Roque opened the comm line. "Jonas. Report." "I'm still here," he said. But his voice had two layers, one familiar, one deeper, a timbre that didn't belong in biology. "What do you see?" she asked. "Everything. Signals we couldn't detect. Frequencies that bend thought. It's already in motion. It's coming from deep space coordinates we labeled dark zones. It was never sleeping. Just circling. Can you stop it?" "I can find it. And if you find it, I kill it. Or I hold it down long enough for Earth to learn how." Roque nodded once. "You have operational authority." Jonas turned toward the launch corridor. "Then I need a drop pod. No escorts. No failsafe." Kale snarled through clenched teeth. "That's suicide." Jonas answered without slowing. "That's the point." 3 hours later, the drop ship exited slip space near the anomaly. No stars, no motion, just a void that rejected existence. Other ships had vanished here, entire NYRH fleets, rogue colonies, exploratory science missions. Jonas entered with no resistance. The entity didn't strike. It listened. It wasn't a fleet. It was a concept. A sentient anti-thought, something that lived in the spaces between dimensions. When Jonas crossed into its minefield, it tasted him. It recoiled. Not in confusion. In recognition. He felt its memory. Ancient. Burning. It had touched early humans once, failed to consume them, then ran. Not from weakness. From what he now was. Jonas spoke into the dark. You remember Earth? A pulse rippled around him. No words. But the meaning was clear. We tried. You refused. You became. His voice was steady. You fear what we are. You are contradiction. Death that adapts. Rage that reasons. You should not be. Jonas opened the link wider, letting it read his mind, his past, his pain. Images flooded into the entity. Every war, every betrayal, every lesson humans learned through fire. The entity shuddered. Jonas pushed harder. You thought war was your language. It isn't. We invented worse. We made weapons that we buried not because we couldn't use them, but because we would. He reached deeper, fusing with the core. His heartbeat became tachyon pulses. His thoughts rode the edge of annihilation. He found the entity's anchor, its consciousness, stored in a dimension just offset from physics. And then he did what no one else could do. He broke in. The thing screamed. A planet's worth of sound, collapsing into a single howl. Jonas smiled. Good. You can hurt. The core flared. Inside the void, he became a storm of violence and logic, unfolding the entity from within, stripping its control threads, locking its reality loop. You don't belong here, he said. You don't even understand why we're dangerous. You call us unstable. Emotional. Primitive. You're right. He forced the core to tear a path backward through the entity's structure, threading synthetic entropy into its neural lattice. And that's why we win. It tried to eject him. Failed. Tried to copy him. Failed. Tried to kill him. Too late. Jonas had already become its nightmare. The weapon Earth buried out of fear of itself. A being who could not be predicted, because no simulation could contain the choices of a man who had nothing left to lose. He forced its anchor offline. Its presence dimmed. It tried to beg. Jonas whispered, "Wrong species." Then he erased it. The void peeled away. The stars returned. The slipstream stabilized. On Argent Vow, alarm ceased. Readings returned to baseline. Talon's mouth fell open. He won? Kale stared in awe. He deleted a concept. Roke didn't smile. Just said 2 words. Signal him. Static. Then his voice, distant, layered, slow. I'm here. What's your status? A pause. I'm not coming back. Roke froze. Explain. I'm still linked to the core. If I return, I bring it with me. It's tethered to my memory now. That's the cost. Jonas. He cut her off. I was born to be this. You made me because you knew one day we'd have to fight something we couldn't understand. I understand it now. It's loneliness. It's hunger. It's silence. Are you in pain? No. Just finally full. Another pause. Then, tell Earth, never build me again. The transmission ended. The void was quiet. Roke stood for a long moment, then spoke to her staff. File the mission under success. Update the Council. Earth neutralized the threat. Talon whispered. And the price? Roke answered quietly. What it's always been. One man. All of humanity behind him. And nothing left of him when it's done. She turned away. The galaxy would never see Jonas Creed again. But they would never forget what Earth could become when it stopped pretending to be civilized.